If someone had told me the kiss would be for cameras only, I would have braced for the flash. I'm Maya Delgado, and about 3 hours from losing everything I'd worked for when I stepped into a record store on Lincoln Road. My bank account was circling the drain. My last client had just walked away from what should have been an easy sale, and Los Angeles's summer heat had my cheap blazer plastered to my back like a second skin. The numbers didn't lie. 1 more month without a commission and I'd be out of business. 5 years building my real estate agency from nothing, and it all came down to this. I needed a miracle, or at least a client with deep pockets and low standards. When I pushed through the door of Grooves and Legends, the blast of air conditioning hit like salvation. I'd never been inside before, but something about the dusty smell of old vinyl and the soft jazz floating through the speakers made me feel like I could breathe again. That's when I saw her. She was standing in the blue section, her dark hair catching the warm light from the vintage lamps. Tall, elegant, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Everything about her screamed money and power. From her perfectly manicured nails to the way she held herself like she owned whatever room she entered. We were both reaching for the same album, Nina Simone Pastel Blues. Our fingers brushed against the worn cover, and I felt this strange jolt of recognition like I'd been looking for her without knowing it. "I'm sorry," I said, pulling my hand back. "I didn't see you there." She looked at me with these incredible green eyes that seemed to see right through my professional facade. "No harm done," she said, her voice low and controlled. "Though I have to say, you have excellent taste in music." I was about to respond when my coffee cup, which I'd been clutching like a lifeline, slipped from my sweaty palm. The lukewarm liquid splashed across the front of her pristine white blouse, leaving a dark stain that spread like my mortification. "Damn it," I muttered, grabbing napkins from my purse. "I'm so sorry. I'll pay for the dry cleaning. I swear." She stood perfectly still as I dabbed at the stain, making it worse with every touch. This close, I could smell her perfume, something expensive and intoxicating that made my head spin. "It's fine," she said. But her tone had gone cold. "These things happen." "No, it's not fine. I'm a complete disaster today." I looked up at her, still holding the damp napkins. "I'm Maya, by the way. Maya Delgado." "Marina Vale," she said, and something in the way she said it made me think I should recognize the name. "And you're not a disaster. Just someone having a bad day." The kindness in her voice caught me off guard. I'd expected anger, demands for compensation, maybe even threats. Instead, she was looking at me with something that might have been understanding. "The worst," I admitted. "Lost a client this morning and I really needed that sale." "Real estate?" she asked and I nodded. "That's a tough business in this market. Tell me about it." I finally stopped trying to clean her blouse and stepped back. "I should let you get back to your shopping. And again, I'm really sorry about the coffee." She picked up the Nina Simone album, turning it over in her hands. "You know, I was just thinking I might need a good realtor, someone who appreciates the finer things in life." My heart jumped. "Seriously? I'm looking for a penthouse. Something with character, not just another glass box." She handed me a business card that felt expensive between my fingers. "Call me tomorrow. We'll see if you can find what I'm looking for." I stared at the card. Marina Vale, CEO, Vale Tech Solutions. Holy, I knew that name. She was one of the most successful tech executives in Los Angeles, worth millions according to the business magazines. "I won't let you down," I said. But she was already walking toward the exit. "Well, see, Maya Delgado," she called back without turning around. "We'll see." I stood there holding her card and the Nina Simone album she'd left behind, wondering if I'd just been thrown a lifeline or if I was about to get in way over my head. I spent the entire night researching Marina Vale, CEO of Vale Tech Solutions, 38 years old. Featured on the cover of Los Angeles Business Weekly twice in the past year. Worth an estimated $40 million, and she'd given me her card. By morning, I'd pulled together a portfolio of the 3 most exclusive penthouses on the market. When she walked into my cramped office on Sunset Boulevard, I felt underdressed again. Today, she wore a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than my car. And she moved with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. "Miss Delgado," she said, her voice crisp and professional. Gone was any trace of the warmth from yesterday. "I hope you have something impressive to show me." "I have 3 properties that I think will interest you," I said, spreading the listings across my desk. 2 in Brickell, 1 in South Beach. She glanced at the photos for maybe 30 seconds. The Brickell properties are too corporate, glass towers with no soul, and this South Beach penthouse looks like it was designed by committee. I felt my confidence deflating. What exactly are you looking for? Something with history, character, not another sterile showcase. She stood smoothing her skirt. Show me what you have. The first property was a disaster. Modern minimalist design that made Marina shake her head before we were even through the front door. This is exactly what I don't want, she said, her heels clicking against the polished concrete floors. The second wasn't much better. A Brickell high-rise with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the bay that should have been stunning. But Marina barely glanced at it. You're not listening to me, she said as we rode the elevator back down. I said character, not square footage. By the time we reached the third property, an Art Deco penthouse in South Beach, I was sweating again. This one was different though. Built in 1940, renovated with respect for the original architecture. High ceilings, terrazzo floors, and a wraparound terrace that overlooked the ocean. For the first time all day, Marina stopped walking and actually looked around. Now this, she said, running her hand along the curved wall of the living room, has possibilities. I watched her move through the space, noting how she paused at the original built-in bar, how she stepped onto the terrace and closed her eyes against the ocean breeze. There was something different about her here, less guarded. The seller is asking $4.2 million, I said. But there's room to negotiate. What do you think of it? She asked, and the question caught me off guard. Honestly, it's beautiful. The kind of place I'd live if I had $40 million. I joined her on the terrace. Look at that view. You could watch the sunrise every morning. You appreciate beauty, she said. And there was something in her voice that made me look at her instead of the view. I try to. We stood there for a moment and I felt that same strange connection from the record store, like we were the only two people in the world. I'll think about it, she said, finally breaking the spell. That evening, I was still at my desk when I heard the front door chime. I looked up to see Marina silhouetted in the doorway, backlit by the street lights. We're closed, I said, but I didn't move to turn her away. I know, she stepped inside, closing the door behind her. I wanted to talk about the penthouse and to apologize for what? For being difficult today, testing you. She sat in the chair across from my desk. I needed to know if you were just another agent looking for a quick commission. And your verdict? You actually listened to what I wanted. Most people hear my net worth and start calculating their percentage. She leaned forward. Tell me something, Maya. What made you become a realtor? The question was so unexpected that I answered honestly. I wanted to help people find home. Sounds naive, doesn't it? Not naive. Rare. She was quiet for a moment. I built my company from nothing. Worked 18-hour days for 15 years. And you know what I have to show for it? $40 million, an empty apartment, and a calendar full of meetings with people who want something from me. She looked tired, suddenly, vulnerable in a way that made me want to reach across the desk and touch her hand. That sounds lonely. It is. She met my eyes. What about you? Do you ever get lonely in this business? Every day, I admitted. It's hard to build real relationships when you're always working. We sat in an easy silence, the air between us charged with something I couldn't quite name. Then she stood. I want the penthouse, she said. Draw up the papers. At the door, she glanced back. Maya, thank you, for seeing what I needed instead of what you assumed I wanted. After she left, I sat in my empty office wondering why a simple thank you from Marina Vale felt more valuable than any commission I'd ever earned. The contract took 3 days to negotiate, during which Marina called me every morning at exactly 9. Not to talk numbers, she asked if I'd tried the Cuban coffee place down the block. Or if I'd heard the new jazz quartet playing at the Fontainebleau coffee meeting. Let's go over the final details, she said on Thursday morning. We met at a small cafe in Los Feliz. I came ready to haggle over closing costs. Instead, she ordered us 2 cortaditos and spoke about the penthouse like it already belonged to her. I'm thinking a piano in that corner by the window, she said, stirring sugar into her cup. Something old, with character to match the building. You play? I used to, before I got too busy conquering the world. She smiled, and for the first time since we'd met, it reached her eyes. Maybe it's time to remember who I was before I became who I am. There was a softness about her today, the sharp edges that made her formidable in business rounded enough to reveal someone I wanted to know. What else did you used to do? Paint. Read books that weren't market analysis. Dance. She looked at me over her cup. What about you? What dreams did you shell for commissions? I wanted to be an architect, design spaces that make people feel something. I gestured around the cafe. Like this. See how the light hits that wall? How the curved ceiling makes you want to lean in and whisper. She followed my gaze, really seeing it. You have an artist's eye. That's why you knew what I was looking for. We talked for 2 hours, the contract lying forgotten between us. She told me about building her company out of a garage, and the loneliness that came with success. I told her my fears, that maybe I wasn't tough enough for this business. Tough isn't everything, she said. Sometimes people just need someone who actually gives a damn. By the time we left, the Los Angeles heat had eased into a warm evening breeze. Marina walked me to my car, and we lingered, neither of us ready to let the afternoon end. Maya, she said quietly, I should tell you something. I don't usually get coffee with my realtors. Just coffee? I asked, my heart pounding. She stepped closer, close enough for me to catch the gold flecks in her green eyes. No. Not just coffee. When she kissed me, it was gentle at first, a question. I kissed her back, and something sparked to life between us. Her hands found my waist, pulling me closer, and I forgot we were on a busy street in broad daylight. Your place or mine? She whispered against my mouth. We drove to the penthouse in her Mercedes, barely speaking, the tension thick and certain. She still had the keys from the afternoon showing. Her hands trembled slightly as she unlocked the door. The empty space felt different now, alive, charged with possibility. Los Angeles sparkled below us through the floor-to-ceiling windows. But I only had eyes for Marina as she set her purse on the marble counter. Are you sure about this? She asked, her professional composure cracking. I answered by kissing her again, deeper this time. My hands tangling in her dark hair. She backed me against the window, her mouth moving to my neck, and I gasped at the sensation. The city lights blurred behind my closed eyelids as her hands found the buttons of my blouse. We made love on the empty floor of her future home, the cool tortoise against my back, her skin warm and alive beneath my palms. She moved above me like music, both of us desperate and tender, as if we'd been waiting our whole lives for this moment. When she cried out my name, the sound echoed off the empty walls, claiming the space as ours. Afterward, we lay wrapped in her jacket, my head on her chest, listening to the ocean through the open terrace doors. This changes things, she whispered into my hair. Everything, I agreed, tracing patterns on her shoulder. The real estate transaction seemed trivial now compared to what we'd found in each other. But as the night air cooled and reality crept back in, I wondered if Marina Vale, CEO and Millionaire, would still want Maya Delgado, struggling realtor when morning came. She must have sensed my doubt because she tilted my chin up, forcing me to meet her eyes. Whatever happens next, she said, tonight was real. You're real. I kissed her again, soft and slow, trying to memorize the taste of her lips, the way she sighed when I touched her face. Tomorrow would bring complications, but tonight we had this perfect space suspended above the city where two women had found something worth more than any contract. Morning brought a different Marina Vale. When she walked into my office Monday morning, she might as well have been a stranger. Gone was the woman who'd whispered my name in the darkness. This was the CEO. All sharp angles and professional distance. Miss Delgado, she said, her voice formal and cold. I'd like to review the closing timeline. Miss Delgado. After what we'd shared, she was back to surnames and business speak. I felt like I'd been slapped. Of course, I managed, pulling up the files on my computer. The inspection is scheduled for Wednesday, and we should close by the end of next week. She nodded curtly, checking her phone while I spoke. No eye contact, no acknowledgement of what had happened between us. When I finished going over the details, she stood without ceremony. Keep me updated on any issues, she said, already halfway to the door. Marina, wait. She paused but didn't turn around. It's Miss Vale, please. Let's keep things professional. After she left, I stared at the closed door, feeling like an idiot. Had I imagined the connection between us? The way she touched me, the things she'd whispered in my ear. Over the next few days, every interaction was the same. Clipped phone calls about paperwork, brief emails about inspection results. She treated me like any other service provider, polite but distant. Meanwhile, I noticed a man showing up at Marina's office building. Tall, expensive suit, the kind of confident swagger that screamed power. Victor Dominguez, according to the business directory. Her business partner and co-founder of Veil Tech. I watched them through the glass lobby. His hand on her back, leaning in close to whisper something that made her laugh. The easy intimacy between them made my chest ache. By Friday, I couldn't take it anymore. I waited in the parking garage of her building, knowing she always left around 7. When she emerged from the elevator, I was leaning against her Mercedes. "We need to talk," I said. "There's nothing to discuss," she replied. But I caught the way her hands trembled as she reached for her keys. "Really? Because 3 nights ago, you were telling me how lonely you were, how you wanted someone who actually saw you. That was a mistake." "Which part? The talking or the part where you made love to me like your life depended on it?" Her composure cracked for just a moment, pain flashing across her features. "Maya, don't what? Don't remind you that you're human. Don't point out that you felt something real for the first time in years." I stepped closer, trapped her between me and the car. "Or don't make you face the fact that you're too scared to let someone in. You don't understand the position I'm in. Then explain it to me." She looked around the empty garage, making sure we were alone. "I have a company to run, a reputation to maintain. I can't afford to be seen as weak." "Who said loving someone makes you weak?" "Everyone, the board, my investors, Victor." She said his name like it tasted bitter. "What does Victor have to do with this?" "He's been asking questions about why I've been distracted, about who I've been seeing." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "He suspects something." I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. "And that matters because he holds 49% of the company, because one word from him to the board about my personal life could destroy everything I've built." The pieces clicked into place. "He wants you for himself." She didn't deny it. "Victor and I have history. He's been patient, waiting for me to come around if he knew about us." "So that's it? You're going to pretend nothing happened because your business partner has a thing for you?" She looked at me with those green eyes that had haunted my dreams, and I saw the war going on behind them. Want versus fear, desire versus duty. "I'm sorry, Maya, but this can't happen again." She moved to step around me, but I caught her wrist. "Look me in the eye and tell me you felt nothing. Tell me it was just sex and I'll walk away right now." For a long moment, we stood frozen. Her pulse hammered under my fingers, betraying everything her words had tried to deny. Then she kissed me hard and desperate, like she was drowning, and I was air. Her back hit the car door as I pressed against her, months of professional restraint exploding into need. She tasted like coffee and regret, her fingers tangling in my hair as if she could anchor herself to this moment. "I can't stop thinking about you." She gasped against my mouth. "It's killing me." "Then don't stop." But even as she kissed me again, I could feel her pulling away, reality crashing back in. When she finally pushed me gently back, her eyes were filled with tears she was too proud to shed. "I'm not strong enough for this," she whispered. "You're the strongest person I know. Not about this, not about you." She straightened her suit, rebuilding her walls in real time. "The closing is Tuesday. After that, we're done." This time, when she left, I let her go. But standing alone in that parking garage, surrounded by the scent of her perfume and the echo of her words, I knew this wasn't over. Couldn't be over. Not when I'd seen behind the mask she wore for the world. Not when I knew the woman hiding beneath all that success and fear. Marina Vale thought she was protecting herself by pushing me away. But she just declared war on the only real thing either of us had found in years. And I wasn't going down without a fight. The closing went smoothly. Marina signed the papers with the same cold efficiency she'd shown all week, barely looking at me as I slid documents across the conference table. When it was over, she shook my hand like any other client. "Thank you for your services, Miss Delgado," she said, her palm cool and impersonal. I thought that was the end of it. The final punctuation mark on whatever we'd shared. But 3 days later, my phone rang. "Maya, it's Marina. I need a favor." The warmth in her voice caught me off guard. "What kind of favor?" "The Children's Hospital Benefit Gala is tonight. My assistant made a booking error and somehow you're listed as my +1 instead of Victor." She paused. "I know it's last minute, but would you consider coming?" "I can't show up without a date after the invitations already went out." Every rational part of my brain screamed no. But the vulnerable tone in her voice, so different from her recent coldness, made me weak. "What time?" 7. The font blow, black tie. Another pause. Maya, I know I've been difficult. This would really help me out. I should have hung up. Instead, I found myself digging through my closet for the one cocktail dress I owned. The ballroom at the Fontainebleau was a sea of Los Angeles's elite, politicians, business leaders, society wives dripping in diamonds. I felt like a fraud in my off-theric dress. Then I saw Marina across the room and everything else faded. She wore a midnight blue gown that hugged her curves. Her dark hair swept up to reveal the elegant line of her neck. She looked like she belonged in this world of power and privilege. "You came?" she said when I reached her, and there was genuine relief in her voice. "You asked." Before I could say more, an older woman with silver hair and too much jewelry swooped down on us. "Marina, darling, you look stunning." The woman's eyes shifted to me with predatory interest. "And you must be the famous fiancé we've heard so much about." My blood went cold. "I'm sorry." "What?" "Oh, don't be modest, dear. The whole city's talking about Los Angeles's most eligible bachelorette. Finally settling down." She squeezed my arm. "I'm Lorraine Fairchild, chair of the hospital board. When do we get to plan the wedding?" I looked at Marina, who had gone pale. "There's been a misunderstanding," I started to say. "Nonsense," Marina's assistant was quite clear when she called about the seating arrangements. "Table 12 for the happy couple," Lorraine beamed. "Though I must say, you're much prettier than the description we got." The blood drained from Marina's face. "Lorraine, I think there's been some confusion about what? Your engagement to Maya Rivera?" Lorraine consulted her clipboard. "Oh, wait. Delgado. Maya Delgado. My mistake." I felt like I'd been blindsided by a truck. Marina's assistant hadn't just booked me as her date, she'd somehow decided we were engaged. The rumor had already ricocheted through LA's social circuit. "We should clear this up," I whispered to Marina. But Lorraine was already ushering us to our table, chirping about venues and introducing us as the bride and the bride. With every introduction, the lie swelled, harder and harder to unwind. "Just play along," Marina murmured at my ear as we sat. "I'll fix it later." By mid-evening, later felt laughable. The story had grown legs. People stopped by to offer congratulations and trade engagement tales. Someone even raised a toast to Los Angeles's newest power couple. "This is insane," I hissed over the salad. "I know. I'm sorry. I don't know how it snowballed." Under the table, her fingers threaded through mine. "But we're stuck, for now." Victor materialized at dessert, anger darkening his face. "Congratulations," he said, voice slick with sarcasm. "Funny you forgot to mention your engagement when we had dinner Tuesday." "Victor, it's not what you think," Marina began. "Isn't it? Because from here it looks like you've been lying." His eyes cut between us. "How long has this been going on?" "We're not actually engaged," I said quickly. "There was a mistake with the invitations." "A mistake?" He looked again, and I saw the instant he put it together. "You're sleeping together." The accusation detonated between us. Conversations around the room kept flowing, but it felt like every ear tilted our way. "Keep your voice down," Marina snapped. "You're sleeping with your realtor," he repeated, a bitter laugh scraping out. "Do you have any idea what that could do to the company, to your reputation?" "Nothing is going to happen to the company," Marina said evenly, "though I'm sure the board would be very interested in your personal life." He leaned in. "Especially since you've been distracted, missing meetings, making sloppy calls." "Are you threatening me?" "I'm protecting our investment." He straightened his tie. "We'll discuss this Monday. Enjoy your evening, ladies." After he left, we sat shell-shocked. The fairy tale had curdled. "I should go," I whispered. "No," her grip tightened. "Please, not yet." We slipped onto the terrace, where the ocean breeze cut the ballroom's heat. LA glittered below, endless lights, endless possibilities. "I'm sorry," Marina said. "I never meant for this." My assistant really, she paused, voice dropping. "Actually, I think she assumed because I've been talking about you. A lot." I turned to her. "What do you mean?" "I mean the mistake may not have been entirely accidental." She brushed her fingers along my cheek. "Maybe part of me wanted people to know. And now they do." "Now they do," I echoed. She kissed me, soft, champagne sweet, full of possibility. "Are you ready for what comes next?" Looking at her silhouette against the skyline, I realized I'd been ready since the moment I spilled coffee on her silk blouse. "Bring it on," I breathed into her smile. I didn't hear from Marina all weekend. By Monday afternoon, worry had me crawling out of my skin. The fake engagement story had hit the gossip columns, speculating about a fall wedding and combined net worth. When my phone finally rang, it wasn't her. It was Victor. "We need to talk," he said, without preamble. "Meet me at the Ritz-Carlton bar in an hour." "I don't think that's a good idea." It wasn't a request, Maya. 1 hour. He was already seated when I arrived, nursing a whiskey and looking like he'd aged 10 years since Friday night. The easy confidence I'd seen at the office was gone, replaced by something harder and more dangerous. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. "Where is Marina?" "At the office doing damage control, which is what I'm trying to do here." He leaned forward. "Let me be clear about something. I've spent 15 years building Vale with Marina. 15 years of 18-hour days of sacrificing everything for that company, and I'm not going to let some realtor destroy it all because she's good in bed." The words hit like a physical blow. "You son of a," save the outrage. "You think I don't know what this is? Marina's having a midlife crisis and you're the shiny new toy." He drained his whiskey. "But here's the thing. I know Marina better than anyone. She's not built for this kind of relationship. Too much ambition, too much pride." "You're wrong." "Am I?" "Because she spent all weekend in meetings with the board, assuring them that this engagement nonsense was a publicity stunt, that you mean nothing to her." I felt the blood drain from my face. "You're lying. Check page 6 of the Herald. She issued a statement this morning." He slid a newspaper across the table. "Local businesswoman clarifies relationship status after charity gala confusion." The words swam in front of my eyes. Marina had publicly denied our relationship, called it a misunderstanding by well-meaning friends. She'd thrown me under the bus to protect her precious reputation. "You see," Victor's voice was almost gentle now. "This is who she is. When push comes to shove, the company comes first. It always has." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I care about her. Have since college, and I know that having you around is making her weak, distracted. She's already lost 2 major clients because she's been so scattered." He signaled the bartender for another drink. "I'm offering you a deal." "What kind of deal?" "Walk away cleanly. No drama, no scenes. In exchange, I'll make sure you get some referrals from our corporate contacts, high-end properties, serious money." "You're trying to buy me off." "I'm trying to save everyone involved." He leaned back, "including you. Because if you stay, you'll only get hurt worse when she inevitably chooses the business over you." I stood on shaking legs. "Go to hell, Victor." "Think about it, Maya. You've known her for what, 3 weeks? I've known her for 20 years. Who do you think she's going to choose?" I left him sitting there and drove straight to Marina's office. Her assistant tried to stop me, but I pushed past her into the corner office where Marina was on a conference call. "I need to speak with you," I said. She looked up, her face carefully blank. "I'm in a meeting now." She excused herself from the call and closed the door. "Maya, what are you doing here?" I read the Herald. Her shoulders sagged. "I can explain. You called our relationship a misunderstanding. You said I was just a friend who got caught up in the excitement. I had to say something. The board was threatening to call an emergency meeting, so you threw me to the wolves. I protected us both. If I'd admitted to the relationship, they would have forced me to choose between the company and you." She moved toward me, but I stepped back. "And we both know which you would have chosen. That's not fair, isn't it? Victor told me about the clients you've lost, the meetings you've missed. He says, you've been distracted making poor decisions." Her face went white. "You talked to Victor?" "He found me. Offered me money to walk away from you." I watched her expression carefully. "But here's the thing, Marina. I don't think he needs to pay me. I think you're going to ask me to leave all on your own." "Maya, please. You don't understand the pressure I'm under." "Then help me understand. Tell me what you want, not what the board wants, not what Victor wants. What do you want?" She opened her mouth, then closed it. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. "I want you," she whispered finally. "But I can't have you. Not and keep everything I've worked for. So, choose." "It's not that simple." "It is that simple." I moved closer, backing her against her desk. "Choose me, Marina. Choose us. Stop living your life in fear of what other people think." For a moment, I thought she might. Her green eyes were full of longing, her breathing shallow. When I cooped her face in my hands, she leaned into the touch like a woman starving. "I love you," I said, the words tumbling out before I could stop them. She kissed me then, desperate and hungry, her hands fisting in my hair. I could taste her tears, feel the war raging inside her as she kissed me like she was memorizing the feel of my lips. "I love you, too," she gasped against my mouth. "Damn it, I love you, too." But even as she said it, I could feel her pulling away, the executive creeping back in. The woman who'd built an empire on control and calculated risks. "But love isn't enough," she said, stepping back. "I'm sorry, Maya. I can't do this anymore." She opened the door and I knew I was being dismissed like an employee who'd outlived their usefulness. "This is who you are," I said as I reached the doorway. "This is who you'll always be. Someone who's so afraid of losing what she has that she'll never fight for what she wants." I left her standing there, and for the first time since I'd known her, Marina Vale looked small. 2 weeks passed without a word from Marina. The silence was deafening, but her absence from my life had clarified something crucial. I stopped feeling sorry for myself and started getting angry. Really angry. The anger led me to do something I'd never done before. I started digging. It started innocently enough. I was legitimately trying to find new high-end properties for my portfolio when I noticed something odd in the public records. Several expensive Los Angeles properties had been purchased by shell companies in the past 6 months. All cash transactions, all traced back to the same Delaware corporation, Vale Tech Holdings. I spent 3 nights at my kitchen table with my laptop following paper trails and cross-referencing business filings. What I found made my stomach turn. Victor hadn't been entirely honest about Vale Tech's financial situation. The company was hemorrhaging money, losing clients faster than they could replace them. But Victor had been quietly buying up real estate through subsidiary companies using Vale Tech's credit lines. Real estate he was then selling at inflated prices to his own private investment fund. He was essentially stealing from the company using Marina's sterling reputation and credit rating to fund his personal portfolio. The worst part, he'd been forging Marina's signature on some of the loan documents. My hands shook as I printed out the evidence. Bank records, property transfers, articles of incorporation for shell companies that existed only on paper. Victor had been embezzling from Vale Tech for over a year, and Marina had no idea. I tried calling her first. "Marina, I need to see you. I have something important to show you about Victor." "Maya, we've been through this. Whatever Victor said to you, this isn't about what he said. This is about what he's been doing. He's stealing from you. I appreciate your concern, but Victor and I have been partners for 20 years. I trust him completely. Trust him. Marina, he's been forging your signature on loan documents." The silence stretched so long, I thought she'd hung up. "That's a serious accusation," she said finally. "It's not an accusation. It's a fact. I have proof. Send it to my attorney. If there's something there, he'll handle it." "Your attorney, Marina, this is about your company, your life savings. Don't you want to see this yourself? Honestly, I think you're so angry about us that you're willing to make up stories about Victor." The words hit like a physical blow. "You think I'm lying? I think you're hurt and looking for ways to hurt back. Victor warned me you might try something like this." "Victor warned you?" I couldn't keep the incredulity out of my voice. "The man who's been stealing from you warned you that I might try to expose him, and you believed him." "Goodbye, Maya." She hung up, and I sat staring at the phone in my hand, surrounded by evidence of Victor's crimes. The woman I loved thought I was a vindictive ex trying to cause trouble, but I couldn't let it go. Not when I knew what Victor was capable of. The next morning, I called Marina's office and asked to speak with her directly. "Ms. Vale is unavailable," her assistant said. "But Mr. Dominguez is here if you'd like to speak with him about your real estate concerns." Perfect. Victor had intercepted my call. "Actually, yes. I do need to speak with Mr. Dominguez." 20 minutes later, I was sitting across from Victor in Vale Tech's conference room, a manila folder thick with documents on the table between us. "Maya," he said, all smiles and false warmth. "I understand you wanted to discuss some business opportunities." "Not exactly." I flipped open the folder and fanned the pages across the gleaming table. "I'm here to talk about your side hustle, the one where you rob your best friend." His complexion blanched, then flared. "What is this?" "Bank statements. Property transfers. Articles of incorporation for Vail Tech Holdings, Sunshine Investments, and Los Angeles Property Group. I slid each sheet toward him. All entities you control, all financed with loans taken out in Vail Tech's name. You've been investigating me, he said, voice low and lethal. I've been protecting Marina, since she won't protect herself. Victor shot to his feet and paced to the window. You have no idea what you're stepping into. Oh, I do. I kept my tone even. A thief siphoning off his partner's trust to pad his own pockets. Marina has no clue. She thinks I'm inventing this because I'm bitter about our breakup. She trusts you completely. I gathered the pages into tidy stacks. So the question is, what are you going to do about it? He turned, the polite veneer gone. The real Victor looked back at me, cold, calculating. What do you want? A confession. You tell Marina what you've done, return the money, and resign quietly. And if I don't? I go to the FBI. Corporate fraud. Forgery. Embezzlement. You'll be counting years in federal custody. He sank back into his chair, fingers laced tight. You're bluffing. Try me. We locked eyes across the table. I watched the moment he understood I wouldn't blink. You still love her, he said at last, even after she chose the company over you. Yes. And you think exposing me will win her back? I think exposing you will keep her from losing everything she's built. I leaned in. This isn't about winning her back, Victor. It's about protecting her from you. He let out a laugh with no warmth in it. You think you're her savior? She'll hate you for blowing up the partnership that created her empire. Maybe. But she'll still have an empire. Silence stretched while he studied the evidence. When he looked up, his expression had gone flat, dangerous. You have no idea what you've started, he said softly. But you'll learn soon enough. He stood and strode for the door, leaving the documents strewn like wreckage. Victor, I called. He paused with his hand on the knob. You have until Friday to tell her. If you don't, I will. He left. I remained alone in the conference room, surrounded by the paper trail of his crimes, while outside Los Angeles thrummed with its usual relentless energy. But in here, everything felt still and dangerous. I just declared war on a man who had nothing left to lose, and Marina was caught directly in the crossfire. Victor didn't wait until Friday. Wednesday morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing with missed calls from Marina. When I finally answered, her voice was raw with betrayal and exhaustion. Is it true? She asked without preamble. The FBI is at my office. They have evidence that Victor has been embezzling. They want to know what I knew and when I knew it. My heart sank. Marina, I'm so sorry. I gave him until Friday to tell you himself. You gave him until Friday? Her voice cracked. You've known about this for days and didn't tell me. I tried to tell you. You wouldn't listen. You thought I was lying. The silence stretched between us, heavy with hurt and accusation. They're seizing our computers, Maya. Freezing accounts. 20 years of work and it might all be gone because I trusted the wrong person, not the wrong person. You trusted Victor, who betrayed that trust. This isn't your fault, isn't it? I signed documents without reading them carefully. I let him handle the financial side while I focused on the technical work. Her laugh was bitter. The FBI agent asked me how I could not know my business partner was stealing from me. Good question. Where is Victor now? Gone. Disappeared sometime Tuesday night. The FBI thinks he's fled the country. Her voice broke completely. Maya, they think I might be charged as an accomplice. I was already grabbing my keys. Where are you? Home. The penthouse. I can't go back to the office while they're crawling all over it. Traffic to Los Angeles Beach had never moved slower. I found Marina sitting on her terrace, still in yesterday's clothes, staring out at the ocean. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her, like someone had drained all the fight out of her. Hey, I said softly, settling into the chair beside her. I lost everything. She didn't look at me. The company, my reputation, possibly my freedom. Victor cleaned out the operating accounts before he ran. Even if I'm not criminally charged, Vail Tech is finished. You'll rebuild with what? I mortgaged everything to fund the company's expansion. This penthouse is probably gone, too. Once the lawyers finished sorting through Victor's mess, she finally turned to face me, her green eyes red with unshed tears. I chose the company over you, and now the company is gone anyway. I'm sorry I didn't push harder to make you listen. You tried. I was so convinced that I knew Victor better than anyone. 20 years of partnership, and I never saw who he really was. She wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. How did you figure it out? I told her about the property records, the shell companies, the forged signatures. As I talked, I watched something change in her expression. The defeated woman was giving way to the sharp executive I'd fallen in love with. Show me, she said. We spent the next 4 hours going through every piece of evidence I'd compiled. Marina's anger built with each document, each revelation of Victor's deception. This loan, she said, jabbing at a bank form. I remember signing this, but it was for equipment financing. He changed it to a real estate purchase after I signed. That's forgery. The FBI will nail him for that. If they find him, she stood abruptly, pacing to the window. Do you know what the worst part is? It's not the money. It's that I let him manipulate me into pushing you away. He played on every fear I had about mixing business with personal relationships. He was protecting his own interests. And I was so afraid of looking weak that I sabotaged the best thing that ever happened to me. She turned back to me, her expression fierce. I love you, Maya. I should have said it publicly at that gala. Should have told Victor to go to hell when he threatened to expose us. You were protecting what you'd built. I was protecting my ego, my image as someone who had it all figured out. She sat back down, taking my hands in hers, but I don't have it figured out. I'm terrified most of the time. Terrified of failing, of being seen as weak, of letting people down. Everyone's terrified. But not everyone pushes away the person they love because they're scared. She squeezed my hands. I want to fight for us, Maya. For real this time. No hiding, no fear. Even if it means more scandal, more gossip. Especially then, let them talk. I'm done living my life according to other people's expectations. She kissed me, soft, certain, tasting like forgiveness and the start of something new. When we finally drew apart, she rested her forehead to mine. I might not have a company anymore. I could lose this penthouse, most of my money. Are you sure you want someone whose life is coming apart? Your life isn't falling apart, I said, stroking her cheek. It's being rebuilt. And yes, I'm sure. I've been sure since the second I spilled coffee on you. I love you, she breathed against my lips. I love you, too. We made love that afternoon with the urgency of almost losing each other. She moved above me like a vow, claiming, certain, while I gave myself over completely, holding nothing back. The Los Angeles sun poured through the windows as we disappeared into each other, two women who'd stepped back from the brink and chose to keep going together. Afterward, tangled in her sheets, I felt the tautness leave her body at last. What happens now? I asked. Now we face whatever comes, together. She traced idle patterns over my shoulder. The FBI thinks they can recover most of the stolen funds once they pin down Victor's overseas accounts. Veil Tech might survive if I can bring in new investors. And if you can't? Then I start over. Build something else. She smiled, and for the first time in days, it reached her eyes. I hear there's a very talented realtor who might help me find office space. I think that can be arranged. 3 hours later my phone rang. An FBI agent delivered news that made us both smile. They found Victor, I told Marina after I hung up. Tried to board a flight to the Cayman Islands with $2 million in bearer bonds. They grabbed him at Los Angeles International. Is it over? The criminal case is just beginning. But yes, I think the worst is over. She pulled me close, and we watched the sun sink over Biscayne Bay from her bed. Tomorrow would bring attorneys and reporters and the slow grind of rebuilding. Tonight, we had each other, and for the first time since this began, that felt like enough. 6 months after Victor's arrest, I found Marina crouched over a laptop in what had been Veil Tech's conference room, surrounded by cardboard boxes and the debris of transition. The bankruptcy court approved the restructuring plan, she said without looking up. We'll come out smaller, but we'll make it. That's incredible, I said, setting down 2 cups of the same coffee we'd shared that first day. So what's next for the new and improved Veil Tech? Actually, I've been thinking about a name change, something that marks a fresh start. She finally glanced up, pushing hair back with tired fingers. Maybe something that admits I'm not doing this alone anymore. The last 6 months had been brutal. Congressional hearings, depositions, a media circus that painted Marina as either a schemer or a fool. Through it all, she kept her head high, answered every question, cooperated with every investigator. And somehow, the Los Angeles real estate market had been kinder than I expected. My association with the veiled tech scandal actually brought in clients, people who admired how I'd helped expose the fraud. My little agency had grown to 3 agents with a waiting list of properties in South Beach and Coral Gables. Have you given any more thought to our conversation last week? Marina asked, closing the laptop. She meant her proposal that we merge our businesses, her tech expertise with my real estate connections, creating a company that specialized in high-end property management systems. I have concerns, I said carefully. Such as what happens when we have our first big fight, when you think I'm being too emotional about a business decision, or when I think you're being too cold. She stood and moved around the table to where I was sitting. Then we fight like adults who respect each other, like partners who trust each other. And if it doesn't work out, then we figure it out. But Maya, I'm tired of making decisions based on what might go wrong. She cupped my face in her hands. I want to make decisions based on what might go right. I pulled her down onto my lap, kissing her with 6 months' worth of love and certainty. When we broke apart, she was smiling. Is that a yes to the business partnership? She asked. That's a yes to everything. An hour later, we were walking down Lincoln Road, hand in hand, drawing the occasional stare from tourists and locals who still recognized Marina from the news coverage. She'd stopped caring about the attention, stopped shrinking from public displays of affection. Remember that record store? She said as we passed a familiar storefront. How could I forget? You still owe me a new blouse. I'll buy you a dozen new blouses. She squeezed my hand. But first, I have something for you. Inside Grooves and Legends, the same dusty smell of vinyl and possibility greeted us. The owner, an elderly man with kind eyes, smiled as we approached the counter. Ladies, back for more, Nina Simone. Actually, Marina said, we're here for this. She reached behind the counter and pulled out a wrapped package. I may have asked Gus Morales to set something aside. Inside was the original Nina Simone album we'd both reached for that first day, along with a vintage turntable that looked like it belonged in a museum. For our new office, Marina said, and for our home, whichever home that ends up being, Marina, this must have cost a fortune. Some things are worth any price. She kissed me softly, oblivious to the other customers browsing nearby, like second chances, like finding the person who sees who you really are. We walked back to her penthouse as the Los Angeles sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. She'd managed to keep the apartment after all, though it was mortgaged to the hilt. I have one more surprise, she said as we stepped onto the terrace. On the small table where we'd shared so many conversations sat a bottle of champagne and 2 glasses. But it was what lay beside them that made my breath catch. A small velvet box. Marina, I know it's been a crazy 6 months. I know we're still figuring out the business stuff, the living situation, all the practical details. She picked up the box, her hands surprisingly steady, but I also know that I love you, that I want to build a life with you, not just a business. She opened the box to reveal a simple platinum band set with a single diamond that caught the last light of the day. Maya Delgado, will you marry me? I looked at her standing there, backlit by the Los Angeles sunset, offering me everything she had left after losing almost everything that had once defined her. The powerful CEO was gone, replaced by a woman who'd learned that love was the only security that mattered. Yes, I said, and she slipped the ring onto my finger with hands that shook just slightly. Yes to the marriage proposal, or yes to everything? She asked, echoing my answer from earlier. Yes to everything, I whispered against her lips. Out on the terrace, we made love as the city lights flickered to life below, the Nina Simone album murmuring from the turntable inside. 2 women who'd found each other against the odds, who'd survived scandal and betrayal to learn the only thing worth guarding was what we'd built together. Later, wrapped in each other's arms, I traced the new ring on my finger and marveled at how far we'd come since that day in the record store. Any regrets? Marina asked, sleepy. Just one, I said. I should have spilled coffee on you sooner. Her laughter tangled with the hush of waves along the shore, and I knew that whatever waited ahead, we'd meet it side by side. 2 women in love, in a city stacked with possibilities, with nothing between us and tomorrow but the long, open stretch of our future,